Story 1. You should not take dating advice from social media. Why listen to a bunch of TikTok creators who are not even in a relationship about how to date? Story 2. People do not want to acknowledge that their loneliness stems from not connecting with others. They would rather mistake it for a lack of intimacy, have sex, and regret it because it means they still have sex. Story 3. Women do not communicate as well as they think they do. It seems like a cultural belief that women are better communicators of their wants, needs, goals, and issues in relationships. That women do not need practice or to be taught communication skills. This is not true. Women are not inherently better at anything. Communication is a skill that needs to be developed for both men and women. Story 4. I think I have a unique perspective. I am a widower, and because of that, I had about a 9-year gap between when I was on the market and looking. I am currently married to my wonderful wife, whom I met on a dating app 4 years ago. Before I was comfortable enough to put myself back out there, I was on forums looking for advice and talking with friends. The biggest difference I noticed is that people are generally more fearful, with too much ego. There was a focus on winning and a fear of losing, and this thought process seemed to influence all decision-making. Maybe I had the advantage of experiencing a healthy partnership, so I knew what to look for. I was honest with myself and my partner about what we wanted. So far, it has worked for me twice. That is my 2 cents. Story 5. Dating applications have not ruined dating. They are a symptom of a fractured society. The death of traditional gendered expectations leads to an economic-based partnership structure that is unsustainable for young males and toxic and borderline victimizing for young females. Story 6. My view is that dating has neither changed nor worsened to the extent people often claim. People are not shallower, more materialistic, or more selfish than they used to be. Jane Austen wrote novels in the 1700s about women making poor decisions and choosing handsome bad boys over reliable nice men. Long before dating applications existed, people ended long-term relationships without explanation in the 1800s. Long before the term ghosting was coined, breakups occurred through Dear John. Letters in the 1940s, long before text messages and blocking were common. People have been unfaithful and have broken each other's hearts throughout history. On the positive side, happy marriages have existed throughout time as well. Essentially, courtship has always been difficult. A certain percentage of both men and women have always behaved selfishly, callously, or dishonestly, and love has always involved risks and rewards. It is technology that has changed, not human nature or emotions. Story 7. People are unwilling to commit. The goal of dating should be to find your long-term partner, even if you do not want to get married. Most people are not emotionally mature enough to maintain a relationship. Relationships are hard, life is hard, and most people do not make it past the first year of bliss. Most people leave after that trial period. Story 8. Not dating, but I would never date multiple people at the same time, as in talking or first date stages. I would not have the bandwidth for starters. Story 9. For most people, casual hookups are soul-destroying and leave you unable to form pair bonds and become emotionally vulnerable with a long-term partner. Story 10. You should present your authentic self on a date, not a false best self version that does not reflect your day-to-day personality. Story 11. Most people are unkind. Many individuals in relationships do not prioritize their partner unless they receive a short-term reward. This means relationships can be fragile if one partner has lower standards. Communication often fails because most people do not make a strong effort to understand the other person. Additionally, few are willing to adjust their communication style to match their partners. Story 12. Some people do not date to connect. They date for relief. Relief from loneliness, boredom, self-doubt, and pressure. It is not about you. It is about what you temporarily soothe in them. That is why it feels deep at first, then hollow later. Story 13. People with public-facing social media are completely undateable. The only exception is people whose jobs require them to be public-facing on social media, such as news anchors, weather reporters, and small business owners. People who consider themselves influencers, those who are desperate to be influencers, and people addicted to attention are not relationship material. You cannot have a successful relationship between two people if you constantly invite the entire world into your shared lives. Story 14. Expectations are a death knell. If you cannot go in very open-minded, at least based on what you already know of the person, you are basically already disappointed. People are too flawed, you included. Story 15. Not everyone should be dating. Some people either are not built for it, do not have the capacity for it, are just bad people, or have many other reasons. But they will date anyway because society has told them they should, or because they are lonely, or for other reasons. There are enough people dating, so we do not need to impose it on everyone. Story 16. This one has confused me before. If you meet a woman in real life, you should always pay for the first date. If you meet a woman on a dating site, you should always split the bill. Story 17. Speaking in generalities, men have been taught how to treat women, but not what to expect from women. Women have been taught what to expect from men, but not how to treat men. Story 18. Just about every man my age, 40, who is single is so because he has a bad personality, poor communication skills, gives up and runs as soon as the relationship encounters the slightest friction, or has standards that are much higher than what he brings to the relationship. This excludes men who are single because they do not want a relationship, as well as widowers and some divorcees. Story 19. A lot of people are undateable and do not make enough effort to become so. They just blame applications for not finding them a perfect match when they are below average. They have a list of what they expect from their partner but are oblivious to their own lack of value. Story 20. People use preferences to hide and deflect from being overly judgmental and shallow. Many people complain that they cannot find anyone, yet they are not willing to self-assess and adjust their standards. There are plenty of people out there. They are just self-limiting. Story 21. Drinking on a first date is an absolute no-go for me. I want to explore an authentic connection and experience, not the version fueled by liquid courage. Story 22. Talking to people as if they are functioning human beings with hopes and dreams, while taking an interest in what they have to say rather than trying to steer a conversation, will help you more than anything else. Story 23. There is a certain amount of truth to what the red pill types say. Dating is a marketplace, albeit an inefficient one, and ultimately your value in that market is determined by factors such as looks, fitness, social status, and income. Their problem is that they use this as an excuse to engage in negative, dehumanizing behavior towards women. What people should take away from their perspective is the positive side of their advice. Work on fitness, learn to dress better, and so forth to raise your value in the dating market. Story 24. In the wake of dating applications, men should be dating or courting multiple people at a time until they enter into a relationship because most women are. Story 25. Many women are not in the league they believe they are in, considering they spend 1 to 3 hours applying makeup and use filters. Story 26. The only advice applicable for men for dating is, be social, meet more people, meet more women, and ask out more women. Dressing well and maintaining good hygiene is important for men who are doing poorly in that regard, although most men are not. Everything else such as working out, having hobbies, being interesting, or having a good job are good life advice but not effective dating advice. Story 27. 1. Men will have a higher chance of dating or finding someone if they stop following TikTok relationship advice and gender baiting, and instead take a shower and wear clean clothes. This is not a joke. In general, a woman would prefer that you arrive at the date with a clean body, clean clothes, and no stains in your underwear, rather than following so-called alpha male relationship advice. 2. Stop listening to internet influencers who claim men or women want this, especially those with monetized channels. Pay more attention to the person you have in front of you. Story 28. Most men are not as unattractive or unapproachable as they believe. They simply put the minimum amount of effort into their appearance. They dress poorly, have neck beards, lack a skincare routine, do not exercise, and so on. Story 29. Traditional courtship and dating remain the best way to find a long-term partner and build a stable, successful, and fulfilling relationship. Dating someone you have known since 3rd grade means you know her family, and she knows yours. You are from the same community and likely share the same values. You share history and childhood experiences. You get to know each other emotionally and physically over time, growing as a couple rather than as two loosely connected individuals. Story 30. If you have been using dating applications on and off for the past 13 years or more, the algorithms will place you very low in the rankings. It is hard to improve your position even with new pictures and profile updates. Story 31. Honesty and sincerity are the best ways to get a woman interested in you. It is easy to say, but it is hard to do. Every man tries to talk himself up without realizing it, but the minute you stop doing that is when you start having quality relationships with women. Story 32. People tell me not to wear metal or punk band shirts and all black on dates. I do it anyway. My take is, if you are a freak, be upfront about it. Story 33. Modern dating is a joke. It is a recreational activity that women engage in when they are bored and have nothing to do. I can completely understand why men do not want to be part of this. Story 34. Male suicide rates would noticeably decline if all dating applications did not try to exploit men as much as possible. Story 35. If you have dated more than 3 difficult people in a row, you are part of the problem. Do not just blame it on the men being dishonest. Story 36. Women diminish their own agency by refusing to ask a man out, take the initiative, and risk rejection. Story 37. Most men have low standards. Imagine dating a woman who wants a man with a car, his own place, tall, and has his life together, but the woman herself cannot even afford any of that. A lot of relationships are just charity cases. Pro tip: date within your financial means. If she says she wants a man who earns more than her, then she is just looking for a lifestyle upgrade. Story 38. A sizable minority of men are destined to end up alone. Women are more likely to be gay or bisexual. They are more likely to not want a relationship in the first place. In polyamorous relationships, men have a higher average number of partners. All this means the dating pool has many more men than women, which in turn means women can be more selective. In the past, this resulted in a few high-status men having multiple wives, while low-status men had none. Many men also died in wars or other violent circumstances. Then wars and general violence decreased, but a return to monogamy and intense social stigma for most factors removing women from the dating pool still artificially maintained a semblance of balance. Now these stigmas have largely disappeared, and we see a return to what is arguably the more natural status quo. A small number of high-status men being with most women, while low-status men end up alone. The 80-20 rule. To be clear, I do not think women being freer to choose their romantic and sexual partners or lack thereof is a bad thing. The opposite is true. Any one man can, with hard work, self-improvement, and some luck, beat the odds. But not all can. That is what odds are. Story 39. 50-50 should be the norm for first dates. It is, by definition, equal. If equality is your guiding principle but you disagree with this on the grounds of tradition, you are a hypocrite. The tradition you suddenly support is a patriarchal tradition. If you are against patriarchy, you have no business demanding patriarchal traditions. Story 40. Exes are not property, so do not get upset if your friend is interested in them. Disclaimer: if there is a legitimate danger in allowing your ex anywhere near your life, this does not apply. Story 41. I think men should completely retract from dating. The messages have been received clearly. Women do not want men approaching them or making any kind of romantic advance. This is absolutely fine. If men's approach, for lack of a better term, is so bad, let's see women's approach. Men should be entirely relieved of the burden of making the first move. That responsibility should be placed solely on women. Men can go about their daily lives, work, gym, or whatever else, and assume women have no interest in them as partners, treating all women as friends with no expectation of a relationship forming. If a woman sees a man she likes, she should approach him and make the move. This is much simpler, easier, and would alleviate problems both sexes have with dating. Women would stop complaining about men asking them out, hitting on them, or choosing the wrong time or place. Men would no longer need to worry about how to approach women without being criticized for using the wrong words, being the wrong height, or having a belt that does not match their shoes. I believe women's success rate would be far greater than men's, simplifying and streamlining the process. Is it a flawless idea? No, but I think it would be better than the current situation. Story 42. You are bound to break up if you started dating younger than 18. I know there are some exceptions, but they already have millions of views on TikTok, so that is about 20 people. Story 43. Dating has become a quick gratification or a feature of life, similar to Googling an answer to a question. Instead of genuinely investing in building a relationship, people approach dates as a pass or fail test. When they fail, ghosting is often the response. Social media is partly to blame for creating this bar of no return, and ideals that simply do not or cannot match the average person due to parts of their life beyond their control. Story 44. I think dating websites are meant to find a partner. After ending my last relationship badly, I tried my luck on dating websites such as Tinder and Bumble. I got very few matches. Those matches turned into week-long ordeals of trying to keep a conversation alive. I am a very good writer because most of my relationships started as long distance, but this group of people I met was very difficult. Story 45. Stand up for yourself. Do not allow anyone to take advantage of you or try to ruin your self-worth. I say this because when it comes to abusive or toxic relationships, men are often left out in the cold. Story 46. Oh, I have several. Dating applications are ineffective. They reduce dating to the most superficial aspects that never truly represent who a person is. My personal opinion is to delete the applications as they rarely work for men, and try to meet people in life and through people you know who love you and have healthy relationships. Some men have gotten worse. Many act like we should not have standards for women or ourselves. I have seen men in life and online obsess over women and talk or act as if men are just driven by primal urges who have never seen attractive features before. Have some self-control, guys. I understand that biology makes us very driven by desire, but we should respect ourselves more and teach boys not to behave so desperately. We should also have better standards for the women we invest our energy in. Many men, myself included, have at least once become involved or developed feelings for a woman who was not good for them just because of desire. Some women have gotten worse too. Many act like they are entitled to be as bad as the men they complain about. Some women are willing to dismiss all men because they only focus on the loudest voices. Not all men are predators or problematic figures. Many men are simply trying to do the right thing, have been allies, and are good people. Story 47. Meet people online. Long-distance relationships have advantages, and you have much better odds of forming an emotional connection over time by talking to people online. The applications seem like a big, superficial nightmare. I have been married since before these applications were really a thing, so I guess I have dodged that bullet. I think if you can find a space that people you are compatible with would occupy online, you are in a better place to meet someone than on the applications. You get time, space, freedom from expectations, and an entirely different pool of people. Everyone worries about long distance, but it is really not that bad. You get romantic connection, a lot of personal time, and when you get to see each other, it is pretty electric. Story 48. For men, being attractive is not a trait. It is a skill. That is to say, you can try as hard as possible to be an attractive man through working out, dressing well, or even having a social circle. But at some point, you will have to drive the interaction forward. A woman will test your confidence, and if you fail, she will lose attraction. For most men, this means you have to approach women. Even if you approach, you will have to take some kind of lead or show some type of assertiveness or decisiveness. You can't expect women to do it for you. This is why one of the worst pieces of advice is to just be yourself. If you are unattractive, you must change. Becoming more attractive will involve effort and sacrifice. You are not guaranteed a woman, nor should you expect to be entitled to their attention because you believe you are attractive. You can only offer yourself to them and look for their feedback. The chance of dying alone is there. The chance of not finding anyone is there. In fact, it is likely. The phenomenon of most men finding a partner is recent. The threshold to be attractive has only risen, and if you want a woman, the amount of effort you must put into yourself has increased and will continue to increase in the future. Story 49. Anyone is free to not date anyone for any reason. It is up to you who you want to date, and if someone does not fit what you are looking for, it is your right to ignore or reject them. If you miss out on a great relationship, oh well. It is wild to me that you should date who you want to date is controversial, but it seems like a lot of people on AskReddit and relationship subreddits freak out about it. Story 50. People end relationships too quickly and do not want to put effort into changing even a little for their partner. It is only personal growth, not growing together. Story 51. Women should be more honest. I cannot count how often they have lied to me because they were afraid of hurting me. Just tell me you are not interested instead of canceling a date because of a headache or another excuse. Just tell me you are not into me instead of disappearing after we have already gotten to know each other. It is not that hard to be honest without being hurtful. I believe this is a significant character flaw. Story 52. Dating applications and social media have ruined dating for my generation. Expectations are too high and standards are unreasonable. Story 53. The way society has been deliberately structured since the 1940s and 1950s is essentially prostitution with extra steps and fees added, and I am not interested in being part of such a system. Story 54. You need to log off. The internet is a cognitive hazard when it comes to dating. Cannot help you, and indulging in it is self-harm. Yes, including this thread. Story 55. Age gaps that are legal and avoid grooming or other impropriety are not inherently problematic. Some of those relationships have issues, just like relationships between people the same age. To the extent we judge other people's relationships at all, an age difference should not automatically be an issue. You can have things in common with someone who is not your age. Being at different stages of life does not prevent connection. You can share interests with people who are different from you. That is part of the diversity of human experiences. There are definitely relationships where age differences can be a problem, but people often overreact without reason. Story 56. Dating is easy. This is based on survivorship bias, I'm sure. But still, it is how I feel about it, and it does not seem to be a popular thought. Story 57. If women primarily paid for dates, the number of successful first dates would increase. Story 58. Cheese pizza should come with the suicide prevention hotline phone number written on the inside of the box because anyone ordering just a cheese pizza may be experiencing difficult emotions. Story 59. If you are lucky enough to find a great partner in your early 20s, you should not throw it away to play the field. Once you reach your 30s, the dating pool becomes thin regarding well-adjusted partners with little baggage. Many people want to live it up when they are young by dating or sleeping with multiple people, then get frustrated that they cannot find someone to settle down with. Most wife or husband material has been taken off the market by then. Anecdotally, the happiest couples in my wife's and my friend circle have been together since they were relatively young. Story 60. I think many men are unwilling to improve themselves to become more attractive or desirable to women. Many of my friends who are still single have negative or toxic character traits that drive potential partners away. When those traits are pointed out, they either refuse to work on themselves or say the problem is actually women. Some people truly need to learn to cultivate their garden. Story 61. Usually, when people in their late 20s, 30s, and older are on online dating sites more often than they are off the sites and in a relationship, it is usually not the fault of the online dating site, the system, or potential dating partners. Almost always, it is the fault of the person who is perpetually stuck on the dating sites. Story 62. A bad relationship is better than no relationship. To be clear, I do not mean an abusive relationship, whether physical or psychological. As someone who was romantically invisible to women, while they were perfectly happy to be platonic friends, just knowing I could be seen as worth choosing would have changed so much about my view of myself and my confidence, which women often say is attractive. I know I am not alone in that feeling. People kept advising not to be desperate because others will take advantage, but I wondered where these people were, because I would have accepted it just to feel normal. Story 63. Sexual preferences can change over the course of your life, so set the preference to everyone. You will also see many more different profiles than if you set the preference to women only. Story 64. While it is never too late to start dating, there is a point where waiting too long makes it much harder. Inexperience beyond a certain age is considered a red flag. Start young, learn, make mistakes, and gain experience. Do not wait for a good time to date, as there is really no such thing as one. Story 65. Modern feminism and cancel culture have diminished men's willingness to try. Afraid of being labeled, canceled, or accused of wrongdoing, men have simply stopped trying. Story 66. Dating for leisure, then living together, is a bad idea that reduces relationships to transience without commitment. People do not grow. They suffer financial and mental issues. Some never recover. Story 67. People have different dating etiquettes based on whether they follow traditional or modern approaches, depending on what suits them. This can be seen as hypocritical. Story 68. It is totally fine if someone does not want to talk online for an extended period before meeting in person. I am not sure if that is bold enough to be a strong opinion, but I know there are many people who would disagree. Story 69. Never do dinner or activities for a first date. Drinks at night at a cool restaurant bar is the only option. You do not even know this person, so save dinners and activities for dates 2 and beyond once you know you want to spend more time with them. If you are not feeling it after one drink on the first date, you can easily and politely end the date and not waste your time and money. Story 70. It is no harder to date now than it was before. People are just faced with direct rejection due to dating applications in a way that they never would have experienced without the applications. This causes people to become more discouraged than before. Story 71. Dating applications are acceptable but not excellent. People often engage with them in unhealthy ways. Both men and women who are actively trying to date and have experienced the other gender's dating perspective tend to conclude that the other gender has it worse. Story 72. Do not do anything too over the top for a first date, such as dressing in a way you would not normally. Set a reasonable expectation for your date so they know this is how you are. If they are uncomfortable with that, they might not be the best fit for you. Story 73. Most people have no clue what they want. They want a relationship but do not want to put in the effort. They want the perks of dating someone without the responsibility. Everyone has become replaceable. We communicate with random strangers about relationship issues but have the hardest time talking to our partners. It is a very tough situation right now. Story 74. I don't think modern dating is broken beyond repair. I think it is incredibly inefficient. Social media has created more choices than ever before for both parties. Unfortunately, men and women are using that abundance of choice for mood boosts instead of potential dating prospects. Story 75. The dating problem is really a resource scarcity problem similar to dating inflation. People are not pairing up today because creating a family, getting married, and having a house only happen if you are able to acquire sufficient resources to build a nest together. Without resources, this all falls apart. The pressure causes degradation of the normal societal roles that men and women used to specialize in as everyone fends for themselves to survive. This results in both sides being upset with each other for not upholding those gender expectations, such as men being inadequate and women inheriting more traditionally masculine traits. This is not the fault of the individual but a reflection of a flawed system as a whole. Unfortunately, we are manipulated into blaming each other instead of the system. Fix the system and you fix the dating problem. Stop blaming men and women for their lack of success because we are all just trying to live. Given the choice, we would revert back to our natural state in a heartbeat because that is what we were promised as children. In summary, for most people, the dating problem is not their fault. There is no need to take it out on the other gender either. Fix the system, not the other side. Story 76. Women always say just be honest about what you want, and then publicly shame men who are honest about only wanting a casual encounter. They do not understand how small a proportion of women are open to just a casual encounter when they say if that's what you want, go find a woman who just wants a casual encounter. I am not condoning lying, but what do you expect when you publicly ridicule men who come with that honesty? Story 77. Many men who are not having much success in the dating market could benefit from having a starter girlfriend. Find someone who is a little on the chubbier side, may have an annoying voice, but will happily be intimate with you several times per week and cook you dinner on date night. Stay together with her for 6 months to a year, gain some practice, experience, and confidence, and then move on. I understand this may seem callous, but it is just being pragmatic. Story 78. People want intimacy but do not want to put the effort into relationships. Furthermore, people want royal treatment but do not want to give it in return. Step up or be quiet. Story 79. Most women on dating applications or through social media just want social media followers and validation. Once you start to ask them out on a date, they have no interest. Story 80. 90% of relationship problems can be solved with, "She is just not that into you." Men dislike hearing this because they were taught to believe, often by women, that love is something to be fought for and earned. Men willingly take on this challenge and end up with a woman who is frankly not very interested in them. She probably settled for him or needed to be rescued. Men often do not realize this until after a painful divorce, a bitter breakup, or even after being cheated on. Story 81. Maybe not necessarily a hot take, but I've almost given up trying to date as a homebody. Most women I meet are obnoxiously busy. I'm an okay-looking guy and had decent luck on dating apps, but I eventually feel like I'm either being a burden to her or burdened by her standards for making plans. I enjoy an empty calendar and just hanging out. Gardening, gaming, cooking, exploring new music, hiking, chilling with friends. Professional and commute responsibilities already provide enough structure for me, but dating and relationships feel like a second job with all the traveling and plans they insist on making. I know my fellow boring suburban homebuddies are out there, but it feels like they just don't exist at this point. Story 82. Not everyone is meant to end up with someone. Some people are destined to be alone, and their genetics reach a natural dead end. Story 83. Women who make you wait for sex after other men had it on the first date are not worth it. Do not get me wrong. I like it when the women I am interested in have high standards. I am not going to play the game where the standards exist for me but did not exist for everyone else. Most men are going to feel like they got played. They are not going to feel special. Story 84. Weaponized incompetence. 95% of the time, it is just a man doing chores in a way that the woman does not like. Story 85. Ghosting is not something that disrespectful men do to women, even though it is often described that way. Many women also ghost others. It just is not discussed as much as when men ghost women. Story 86. Your experience with a few people or even many people of the opposite sex does not define or encompass the entire dating population. Good people are out there. If you keep finding bad people, look inward for a little while and consider why that is. Story 87. If I am a cisgender man dating a transgender man, I should be able to expect him to do 50% of the planning and 50% of initiating activities. Story 88. Mine has to do with how we talk about dating. If someone posts saying they date one sex, we do not need to consider the other sex or use gender-neutral phrasing in our reply. There are many people on this subreddit waiting for the opportunity to reply. That is not a gender thing. We do not need to acknowledge the behaviors of a gender the original poster does not date. Story 89. People dating in their 20s should not consider long-term relationships as a primary goal. Many problems in long-term relationships occur because individuals have no exposure to different people through dating. They find one person, think, "Oh yes, this is what I want," and then fail to account for growth and change in themselves and their partner. You cannot know what you truly want in a relationship and a life partner until you have experienced both good and bad with multiple people. Story 90. Monogamy is a commitment to have sex with one person. You are failing to uphold your commitment when you decide instead to have it with no person at all. Story 91. This is probably going to get me a lot of criticism, especially on Reddit, but more people cheat in real life than people on Reddit think. You will never know if you will cheat or not until real temptation comes. Not just fleeting attraction or a crush, but the real kind of visceral attraction you get from another person that is reciprocated. You would be incredibly naive and self-unaware if you can just say, "Nope, not me ever," until you've experienced it for yourself. It is like saying, "I'd be awesome in a firefight." Story 92. I don't think it is an issue that dating applications do not match you. I personally feel that dating applications are more of a place for the exhaustive cycle of just hooking up. It is like a quick fix for a drug addict. You can get on an application, score a quick match, relieve the tension, and then both parties go their separate ways. Story 93. If she asks you out, she pays for the date. Let the truth come out early so you do not waste your time with someone you are not compatible with. Story 94. If you are a man in the dating world, avoid dating advice from your female friends. They will give you their aspirational advice, but they do not live in that reality. Also, avoid the male-oriented online communities for any dating advice, as it benefits them for you to remain angry, uninformed, and single. Story 95. Love is a choice. I would even argue that attraction is a choice. Chasing a romantic spark or chemistry over character and shared values in one's personal life is not going to end well. We all settle. We cannot get everything we want, so we all have to compromise. We have to prioritize which traits we desire in our partners and value most. It should be your goal to get married younger than you think. No, do not rush it just for the sake of being married. Yes, have all the awkward conversations about money, religion, values, and children, and be ready to leave if there is a conflict there, even if you love them. But if you find someone you genuinely like in your early 20s and you align on these things, do not arbitrarily break up with them or wait indefinitely. I certainly wish this was something that I could have done. Story 96. Texting someone "good morning" every day does not build a relationship. It builds resentment and carpal tunnel syndrome. Story 97. Hooking up and having sex is not difficult. A man can be inexperienced or socially awkward and still succeed, as long as he does not talk too much, knows how to lead the conversation, and says the right things. However, keeping a woman genuinely interested in him is what many men find challenging. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.